Spoke Radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Well, good evening, Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, man. How you doing? Today's Tuesday, March 29th, 2022. 88 days in the new year, only 277 days left. Let's do this, man. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of nowhere, a total undisclosed location. But it is beautiful in here, folks. It is. I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer, and UnX Networks. Grace Hobbs. I am your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing tonight? Three very special guests with us tonight. John Greenewald is here, Black Vault. Jeff Kingsbury is here tonight. Alan B. Smith is here tonight. I'm calling tonight the UFO All-Stars. Tomorrow night, Don Schmidt. Don Schmidt returns for the 75th anniversary of Roswell. We're going to do a show tomorrow night called Roswell Revisited. That is tomorrow night. Thursday night is another Fader night with open lines all night long. And another great week here on the show. Really looking forward to what's happening tonight. And don't do this too often where we just load up guests. And I dig it when it does happen. And I've always framed this show as, just sitting down with somebody and having a conversation. And that's great. That's where my heart lies, right? That's where it's at. But sometimes it's really, really cool. First off, to break it up a little bit, but second, just bring in a variety of guests and have at it. And that's what we're going to do tonight. Really looking forward to this. I've been fans of Alan B. Smith and Jeff Kingsbury for a while now. And to finally get them on the show and introduce them to all of you, special treat. And maybe we'll do this more often moving forward, too, as well. I would really like to do this more and introduce the world to some very talented people out there. Okay? All right. Let's go. Crystal Skulls, this is what's great. Let's see, which one should I grab? Oh, check this. I haven't shown you guys this one in a while. This is a baby Einstein. That's a baby Einstein. When you go to Carolyn Ford's website, she's got a whole section there for baby Einsteins. These are all carved in Einstein's image, and they all they have a pillow that they come with, the pillow sitting over there. So it sits upright. Other crystal skulls, they have a thing, but this is like Einstein. And Einstein, Einstein has got two holes in his jaw, one here and one here. And this is a baby Einstein. And so you get the holes and you get the accuracy. Get yourself a baby Einstein like me. Go to EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Visit Carolyn Ford's website. Use the promo code Jimmy. 10% off of your Crystal Skull order today. Coming up, Disclosure Fest Foundation. They are doing it again this year. I'll be hosting. It is the Mass Meditation Initiative for 2022. June 18th, one-day event on Saturday, 2022, from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., one day only, at the Los Angeles State Historic Park in downtown Los Angeles, California, right next to Chinatown. It's an amazing, huge event. I'm hosting again this year with music performances by Trevor Hall is going to be there. Desert Dwellers. Porangui is going to be there, and many more musical guests on 4 stages. There's going to be 16 stages overall. 16 workshops with Billy Carson, Adam Apollo, Lori Spagna, Laura Eisenhower, Brad Olson, David Palmer. I'm going to get David Palmer on the show here soon, and others. All you have to do is go to disclosurefest.org. disclosurefest.org. Check it out for tickets and info. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. That's right. Just follow me right there. Follow me at JChurchRadio right there on Twitter. The Sandbox, hashtag F2B on Twitter. It's right there. It's right in front of me. I'm looking at it through the shock mount of the microphone. It's right here. I'm looking at it. Hashtag F2B. We don't bite. Let's get to the breaking news. Okay. I just had this sense of eased off today when I read the headlines about Russia announcing today that they were, open air quotes, withdrawing troops from Kiev and Chernihiv, but intense fighting continued around the suburbs of Kiev this afternoon, especially in the northwest and northeast of the city, despite that announcement by both Ukrainian and Russian officials that Moscow was now pulling some units away. Stock market went up, oil prices went down with this breaking news. We'll see what tomorrow brings. Earlier today, I watched the video. Earlier today, Russian cosmonaut Anton Shklaplerev handed command and control of the International Space Station to U.S. astronaut Thomas Marshburn. Anton had been the commander of the ISS, and he's headed back to terra firma. Yesterday, both Chris Rock and Will Smith issued apologies to each other for the joke-telling and face-slapping that occurred Sunday night at the Oscars. The worker shortage has been a hallmark of the pandemic economy. We've all seen this going on. Everybody's hiring. Everybody needs workers, and that's what's been going on. And it's far from getting resolved. In February, U.S. businesses had 11.3 million job openings to fill, slightly more than predicted. There are more available jobs right now in the arts and entertainment and recreation, educational services, and the federal government has jobs right now in surplus. Meanwhile, 4.4 million Americans quit their jobs in February. There you go. I'm just going to leave that right there. Check this out. Dust in the news. Dust. Microscopic particles from the first Apollo 11 lunar sample that were found inside a bag used to protect the first astronaut collected lunar sample are headed for auction after being released from NASA as NASA's property. That's right, a court settlement. And now the hard-to-see specks of suspected moon dust are anticipated to sell for between $800,000 to $1.2 million. The owner already sold the actual lunar sample bag at a 2017 auction for $1.8 million. The bottoms auction will take place on April 13th in New York City. That's right. You're not hearing things. $1 million for a speck of dust. Seriously, you can't even see it. You can't even. Oh, man. All right. Somebody's got too much money. The Foo Fighters have canceled all of their upcoming tour dates following the sudden death of drummer Taylor Hawkins last Friday, March 25th. The band is scheduled to perform at the Grammy Awards in Las Vegas this Sunday, where they have been nominated for 3 awards. No word yet if the band will still appear on the telecast. I'll keep you posted. Let's get the show cracking. Happy birthday to today, Terry Jacks. Terry Jacks is 78 years old. Seasons in the Sun. Man, that single sold 14 million copies. And I believe they outsold Nickelback. They might, Terry Jacks may have sold more records in Canada than anybody, certainly singles. 14 million copies of that, Seasons in the Sun. I listened to it like 3 times today. Perry Farrell of Jane's Addiction today is 61. Our dead guy's birthday today is Billy Thorpe. Billy Thorpe, 1946 to 2007, died at the age of 60. Billy was a singer-songwriter, and he was a record producer. But we know him from his song and space opera, Children of the Sun. I know you remember that. Billy also worked as a producer and composed music scores for TV series, including The War of the Worlds. Bet you didn't know that. He did Star Trek, The Next Generation. Bet you didn't know that. He did Columbo. He did 8 is Enough. And he did Hard Time on Planet Earth. Billy suffered from chest pains at his home on February 28, 2007, and was taken by ambulance to St. Vincent's Hospital in Sydney, Australia. He then had a massive heart attack and died 30 minutes later. His family was by his side when he died at the age of 60. Happy birthday, Billy Thorpe. Children of the Sun. Man. Yeah, that was a good track. On this day in history, OTD. 1974. Mariner 10, launched by NASA in November 1973, becomes the first spacecraft to visit the planet Mercury, sending back close-up images of a toasty world. On this day in 1974. It was mind-blowing, actually. I kept wondering, why doesn't it melt? Why doesn't it melt? Fader fact. Farmers in India. This is a fact. I want somebody to start posting pictures as soon as I whip this fact out on you. This Fader fact. Children of the Sun, Billy Thorpe. Thank you, Cass. I want to see pictures. You ready? Farmers in India paint their dogs to look like tigers to keep monkeys away. That's your Fader fact. You should see the pictures, man. I mean, somebody's airbrushing, right? These dogs, and they look like tigers. It's amazing the transformation a dog can have once he's got stripes. And that is your Fader fact. Tonight, three very special guests. John Greenewald, Jeff Kingsbury, and Alan B. Smith all are here on tonight's show. Tomorrow night, Don Schmidt returns for the 75th anniversary of Roswell. The show will be called Roswell Revisited. We're doing it all from A to Z tomorrow night with Don Schmidt. Thursday's another Fader night with open lines all night long. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, and now it's time for me to hit this River Moon coffee. RiverMoonWellness.com. I like my coffee, Doc. Ken Priest telling me I've got to get my biscuit skills up to par. All I did was post a picture of a biscuit with some blueberry jelly on it with some Irish butter, right? Unsalted Irish butter. Oh, blueberry, fresh preserve on a nicely fresh baked biscuit. And Ken comes back with, nah. I was like, man, I worked really hard on that. Yeah. I got to up my biscuit game. All right. Where am I at? Rivermoonwellness.com and best coffee in the world. I've got a new static-free burr grinder. Unbelievable. Oh, my God. Oof. And it looks really cool. I actually went up to it today and went, I caught myself. I was like, I was like, what are you doing? What? Stop. I actually did that. I petted my burr grinder. Life is good. All right. Man, I love my coffee dark. So, over the weekend, I binged Bridgerton. I did. Yep, the whole thing. Did most of it over 3 days. Well, texting my friend Lisa. Total play-by-play. That's right. It's like that. It was a lot of fun. I like Bridgerton. And season 2 might be better than season 1, and season 1 was pretty amazing. And so, yeah. Got to have a cough button. And Sunday night, I arrived at the final show of season 2, episode 8. Kind of bummed. Texting Lisa. I'm like, oh, crap. Is there 10 episodes or 8? She says there's 10. And I was finishing 7. I was like, I don't want this to end yet. And I just happened to look it up, and there it was, 8 episodes. So I knew I had one left. And then she texted me back, oh, it's 8. Sorry, my bad. It's not 10, it's 8. So I decided to take a break, from the texting madness. And I paused the show. I wanted to hold off. I just binged 7 episodes, and now I'm at episode 8. Everything is about to really hit the fan. So I take a break. I got some more munchies ready. I popped some stuff in the oven and pigs in the blanket. And no, just kidding. Not really. And I stepped outside of my back patio for some fresh air. And I look up at the stars. Beautiful night. Perfect sky. Black with the stars. And I'm standing there, man, hands on my hip. I'm just looking up. And at that exact moment, a craft appears. And it's moving slowly right overhead. And it's at an angle. It's going like this, like east, northeast, right? Not east, little north, little angle. More east than north, but at an angle. You get it. There it is. Naked eye, man. Right there. Bright. It's white. Not very high, by the way. And if I was going to take a guess, I would say like 30,000 feet. And it's slow. It's not satellite high, but it's not low. It's like, commercial aircraft height. It's white, and it's just going just like slow. And I'm like, whoa. Wait, it gets better. So, in my holy crap, this is so cool moment, I run back in the house and I grab my night vision. I run back outside. I look up. It's still there. It's moving slowly. Now it's like right here. And I turn on my night vision and the batteries are dead. I must have left them on back in Sedona. right? So I run back in the house and I grab some batteries. I go back out on the patio. I change the batteries, and that takes it a little bit because it's waterproof and it's got this thing, and it's and you got to unscrew it. It's you just don't pop off a cover. I get the batteries out, put the batteries back in, I screw it back on. It's got to be tight. I turn back on the night vision. It lights up. It's all good. I look up. The object is gone. I scan the sky. Night vision, right? I'm scanning the sky. I'm thinking, I'm going in the direction where it was headed, but it's not there. But it gets better. But as I'm scanning the sky, looking for this, the object, I see two crafts. And I like that, and they're crossing each other just like this, right? And that's really cool when this happens. And then as I'm looking at these two, right, a third object pops in, and it's going this way. And so for a moment in my night vision, I've got three things going on, and it's awesome, right? It's bigger, it's brighter, it's faster. And I'm watching these three things at the same time when a fourth decides to join the party. All within about a minute in the same, and I'm like, what the heck's going on? And all of this within a minute. And I was basically looking straight up and facing a little bit south, right? I'm kind of at an angle. It's like this. This would be south. I'm like this. As the objects kind of did their thing and cruised away, and now they're all, out of my vision, and I'm just kind of looking, and then I just pivot my body. I'm facing south, and I pivot my body and I go north, just like this. And I'm looking straight up. And there's another craft moving north to south, coming at me like this, north to south. And that's a rare thing. North to south, you never see. And you can pretty much, when you see something going north to south, not a satellite. I don't know what it is, but, and that's this very moment, another craft pops up. This is all going on. I got Bridgerton waiting inside. And now I've got a craft going from west to east. So this craft is going north to south, it's flying over my head, and now I've got this other one coming in from west to east. And as I'm looking, another one pops in behind it, following it, and then another. Right in a row, boom, boom, boom. And that's when I was like, now I've got Starlink passing over my house. So I've got all this over here earlier, minute later I've got and now I've got Starlink going over my house. So I stood there and I watched and I counted 54 Starlink satellites, 54. And honestly, I think I even missed a few. But of those 54, around 10 of them were not in line. They were either a little above or a little below the line of satellites, which was strange. 45, right, were perfect equidistant spacing and pace, just going across the sky, just perfect like this, But the 10 or so that were not in line were not spaced. It wasn't like, so these are going in line, but these other ones were like right here or down here, but they're still moving. It was weird. Now, I don't know much about how Starlink works or how they're positioned. So I don't know why there were these, out of 54 going across, why there were these odd ones out. I don't know. I'm just reporting exactly what I saw. So, I don't know. This whole thing took probably about 5 minutes, Starlink. It was 54, man, just right across the sky. Totally cool. Here's the crazy part. Without the night vision, you couldn't see them, and it was It was a marvelously dark, crystal clear, starry night, but couldn't see it with the naked eye. This is the only second time that I've seen Starlink. The first time was in Indy last summer, and that night they were glowing and completely visible to the naked eye. So I don't know if they were lower or what the deal is. So after the excitement was over, I had to get my food out of the oven, get back to episode 8 of Bridgerton, and check in with Lisa. It's like, oh, now get my food and sit down, and I texted Lisa. I go, dude, I just saw 54 Starlinks. And she replies, what is Starlink? Is it in episode 8? I texted back, never mind. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, UFO All-Stars. John Greenewald is here. Jeff Kingsbury is here. And kicking off tonight is Alan B. Smith right after the break. Tomorrow night, Don Schmidt returns for the 75th anniversary of Roswell for Roswell Revisited. All of that is tomorrow night. Thursday night is another Fader night with open lines all night long. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black on the UnX and Game Changer networks. We'll be right back with Alan B. Smith right after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net.
Introducing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. GetTheTea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years, and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's GetTheTea.com. GetTheTea.com. The tea that makes you go.
Do you have an interest in the paranormal? Then you'll love the UnXNetwork.com. The X is your streaming audio and video for everything supernatural, strange, and mysterious, like UFOs, Bigfoot, ghosts, and so much more. From hosts like Jimmy Church, Whitley Strieber, Micah Hanks, and Christina Gomez. Visit the unxnetwork.com show page for a complete list of all the paranormal programs you'll find on the X. Be sure to follow us on Twitter for updates at KUNXDB. Follow our Facebook group, UNX Network. Find the podcast on Spotify, iHeart, Audible, and Apple Podcast. It's time.
It's new.
It's the X.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Combat, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, 3 special guests. John Greenewald is here. Jeff Kingsbury is going to be joining us shortly. And kicking off the night tonight, Alan B. Smith. Alan B. Smith, host of Paranormal Now. He is a podcaster. He's an independent documentary filmmaker. He has co-produced and co-directed the documentary Born Equal, co-producer on the documentary Sounds of the Dead, EVP, and Life After. And he's been featured in several paranormal-related documentaries and is now, of course, part of the family over at KUNX. And I would like to welcome for the first time to Fade to Black, Alan B. Smith. Alan, you know how many times I've wanted to say Alan B. Shepard?
But you didn't.
But I didn't. How you doing, man?
Good. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is really, really cool, and it's kind of my version of host to host. And but welcome to the program, and you get the first time guest disclaimer. So let me get that out of the way, which is this: Alan, is just you and I sitting on my couch having a conversation as friends, and where that conversation starts, it starts. Where it ends. But we're going to end as friends. There you go. How you doing?
Can we watch Bridgerton together?
Yeah. Are you watching that, man?
Now I have to. My wife was watching it, and I kind of checked out, so I feel like I need to get back in.
Yeah. The first season hooked me, and it was so good. I thought that it's hard to do. You know, your first album is always great. Your second album kind of sucks, right? And it's that way with TV series. But I got to say, man, season 2, it might be better than season 1. So if you haven't checked it out, go and watch season 1 and then roll right into season 2. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, what got you started in not only the paranormal, the supernatural, and UFOs, but doing your own program, your own podcast, and your own radio show? What got you into this?
Yeah, it wasn't like a mission statement. Basically, I had reached out to, this is about 7 years now, I think, Ken Cherry. He was the host, and he ran Epic Voyages Radio on the old Inception Radio Network. And I just said, hey, man, I'm interested in these subjects. I'd like to help out however I can. So I helped him out with the website and some graphics and that sort of thing. And then he's like, hey, do you want to give it a go and host a show? So I said, sure. And then I was hooked. That was it after that first one.
And how do you, for all of those out there that want to do what you do, how do you approach it? How do you book your guests, and how do you do a show flow? And how do you pursue things?
Yeah, well, I learned along the way, obviously. So, in fact, I remember one of the earlier interviews I had was with the great Jim Mars. And it's one of those interviews I wish I could go back and do again, because I found myself interrupting, not out of rudeness, but out of like this kind of desire to ask all of my questions. And what I've learned over time is it's not about the list of questions that I have in front of me. I have a background in acting. So for me, it's that interaction between two people with shared interests. That's where I love, to live. And so I started chilling out a little bit, or getting a little bit more relaxed, and then just asking questions that were relevant to what the guest is saying in that moment, and just responding organically. That's where I feel the best. But it took me a while to get there. And yeah, it's sometimes I'll go with a guest, and it's a crapshoot. I have no idea how it's going to go. It's someone that I only vetted very little, because they had one book out, or they had not done that many interviews. So you just kind of, I love the live format. It's like theater for me in that regard. You're kind of living on the edge a little bit. You don't know exactly what's going to be said or how it's going to go. And
Yeah,
I love that place.
Yeah, live is it's an adrenaline rush, and mistakes included. Right? You can't hit rewind. You can't do another take. And I dig that part of it, the performance aspect of it. It's live theater, right? And so I dig that. Every time I tape an interview, and I've only done a few over the years, I've done a lot of shows. Every time I do a taped interview, I sound like All Things Considered on NPR.
Yes.
How you doing? So what got you into UFOs? And it's just like, wait. It's not who I am. So I'm totally with you on the live aspect. And then I want to talk to you or ask you about the paranormal. And the reason is this. I know I've framed this as a UFO show tonight, but everything is connected. But when you approach a paranormal guest, is your background with ghost and contact and the supernatural, or are you learning?
My background's all over. So I don't hyper focus in one field. That's why it's called Paranormal Now. Because for me, ufology, UFOs, growing up, that was considered paranormal. I think that there's a much stronger secular approach. Maybe not stronger, but in sheer numbers of people that are interested in this, they approach it in that more, nuts and bolts secular mindset. And for me, UFOs are fantastical. What people were reporting defied known physics. And so it was definitely in that realm of the unknown, the mysterious, the paranormal, potentially supernatural. And so for me, it's all this, not the same, but it's on the same broad scope. It's kind of like if you're an archaeologist, you don't study every site on the planet. You have your niche, right? And you focus on that niche. I kind of step back and I like to look at all of them. And that's, on the show, that's why I have these conversations with paranormal investigators, pet psychics, ufologists, and anything that is beyond the scope of, everyday life. And I just want to add too, that after Inception Radio Network, I was looking for a home because that had shut down. And I found someone to adopt me, and that was Race Hobbs. And he was just so patient. And I was persistent. I said, look, you're where I want to be. At the time, which was KGRA. Mm-hmm. And it was many months later where he finally got me on there. So he gave me that break, which I'm totally grateful for. And then, as you know, now I'm on the UNX network, which how can I not? Race is like family. So
he attracts, right? He just does. He attracts the best because of his pursuit of excellence, and he's always had that. And people appreciate that about Race. There's another aspect to this, though.
Yeah.
Do you find that when you have a guest talking about UFOs, somehow the conversation gets into ghost? Or you have a paranormal guest on, you're talking about EVPs, and the next thing you know, you're talking about UFOs. And that everything just may be connected and you brought up physics in a weird way where once you get into this, everything just kind of overlaps.
Yes. And see, this is like the playground I love living in. And that's why I love looking at all these different fields and having all these different conversations. So you have the secular approach at ufology. The way I see even people who are approaching this strictly as nuts and bolts, there's that subtext of a mythic journey that we're all going on. There's a thrill in not knowing and not having the answers. I love that we get bits and pieces along the way. Of course, I want to know, who exactly these extraterrestrial or interdimensionals are, but I enjoy the process of discovery. And I think, very much in line with like that Joseph Campbell way of thinking, and not to get too much into it, but like Carl Jung, for instance, saying that the UFO is really like an archetype of the mind. It's human experience expressed. And I think that that's true, whether a UFO is an extraterrestrial or not. I think that is still like a little mini, hero's journey that we're all kind of going on. And we're trying to get answers that speak to something much deeper spiritually. So there is a spiritual through thread for me that is, on all of my episodes with all of my guests. I can't help but ask them, like, what are your spiritual beliefs? How does your experience? I mean, that my documentary Half Light, which should be coming out in a few weeks, if I can get it edited and finished in time.
Right.
That's exactly what I discuss with actual researchers, experiencers like Geraldine Orozco, Race Hobbs, Tiffany Mack, Mark D'Antonio, Brian Sprague, Peter Robbins, all these great people, Cheryl Costa, that I love. And what I found is that their investigation into whether it's ufology or witchcraft or paranormal investigations is that there's a fulfillment. And when I say spiritual, I'm not talking like, dogmatic religion. I'm saying that, and it could be psychological. We can use that term loosely. There is a spiritual aspect to it that for me was very much a large part of a saving grace for me. For many, many years, I struggled with anxiety. I struggled with depression, even addiction. And all along the way, I was tapping into, it doesn't matter if it was like a cheesy ghost show, hunter show on TV. I was always listening to Coast AM, like religiously every night, because it gave me this sort of like supplemental sense of hope that the fact that there are so many out there mysteries that we can't figure out, that I can't give up, because I don't even know what I'm giving up on.
Well, here's the interesting part, though. You bring up Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey, and the hero's journey, correctly written and interpreted before Joseph Campbell, coined the term. All of the great works going back thousands of years all have that component of Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 of the hero's journey. Yeah. And if we apply that to ghosts and the paranormal and UFOs, we don't have an Act 3, right? We've got an error in the hero's journey, because we get the mission, right? That's Act 1, right? You get your quest, right? And then you head out and you do the journey and you do your thing, and then you come back home the hero, right? Well, we're not coming home for a while. We're still out on this quest. You know what I mean? And I think that is, you brought up the best point of all. We may not get to the end of this. We might not see Act 3 of the hero's journey, but the fun part is trying to figure stuff out, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. And also, I think both things are true. So I think that 100%, that's what's awesome about this, is we're all on this quest, right? Little, it could be little mini quests along the way. For me, every time I do a show, it's a little mini quest. into uncovering the truth, to learning about myself and about other people. But because of that, even though I don't get a solid answer that here's proof, here's ectoplasma, here you go, sir.
Right.
We've proven once and for all. Ghosts are real. They come through your wall. No, even without that, I still walk away satisfied. I still walk away. I learned something about myself, and that's kind of the whole point of the hero's journey. Of course, I won't talk about the last Jedi.
You can't go there. You can't go there. But I would like to be Luke Skywalker and blow up the Death Star and come back home with proof of the existence of ET for the world, because you would be Luke Skywalker, and that would be a pretty good feeling.
That would be the ultimate. Yes. And there's lots of people that are out there doing that for sure. But and sometimes, you got to be the sidekick, and I'm cool with that too. If I can help out in any way. Yeah.
You want to be Chewie? So
you chose Chewie over Han. Come on, man.
So, but check this out.
Yeah.
I just you're a filmmaker. And I just completed this film. I did 2 or 3 last year, and in one of them, I was sitting with a group of, I'm not going to name drop it, a pretty nice group of people that appeared in the film. And one of the things that we talked about was not only the hero's journey, but the fact that Stanton Friedman wasn't here for the Act 3, right? That Jim Mars is not here. John Anthony West is not here, and Lloyd Pye. So many that worked so hard out there in Act 2, right? To do this. And we are sitting in the most extraordinary days of answering these questions about UFOs and UAPs and what is going on with life in the universe and contact here on planet Earth. It's just absolutely extraordinary. And so many of those heroes for us that put me and you where you are today, Art Bell, for instance, and that they are not here with us anymore. And I think that is important to recognize those that literally, I'm riding on the backs of those guys and gals.
Yeah. I mean, Rosemary Ellen Guiley.
Yes.
The past 5 years have just been horrific with the number of losses, and it really breaks your heart. Because this is like one of the most exciting times since perhaps Stanton broke the Roswell case wide open.
Yeah.
And he was a hero of mine growing up. Absolutely. I would say more so than someone like J. Allen Hynek, because he was there. He was alive, when I was a kid and on TV and presenting and books. And that for me, that's the thing. They are heroes, even though they didn't get to the ultimate third act. In my heart, they're heroes.
Yeah. There's no question about that. What do you think is starting to develop in front of us, certainly moving through 2022 when we talk about disclosure? Do you have expectations?
No. I think I don't think that there's one. Obviously, there's no timeline. It depends on who you talk to. I know you talk to a lot of people. I'm sure people who have inside tracks and insider information, and a lot of that you have to take with a grain of salt. But over the years, people that I've spoken to, on and off the air, friends of mine, who say, "Look, I was investigating this case. I bumped into these people. They're with the government. They kind of whispered in my ear, this is what's going on." And oftentimes what I heard was that there are these generally two factions, whether you want to call it the cabal or just, people who have a different idea of what's best for the United States or the world. That one faction wants to keep this a secret and not release this for a very long time. And there's another faction in the know that wants to release everything we have about our knowledge of ET visitation, retrieved craft materials. And I think that maybe at one point that was true. let's assume the MJ-12 documents are real, then yes, there was a kind of a cabal. But was it really like a secret society where this is generational and you're kind of initiated into this club?
Mm-hmm.
And the club that we have now is the same one we had in 1965 or 1975. And I just don't think that's true. I think we see that reflected in Congress too, because you have a different generation of people that are in Congress that are open to the idea that we're possibly being visited by something unknown, quote unquote unknown. Aliens don't come off the lips of our representatives quite yet, but there has definitely been a change. And so I think where we're at now is you have like people that Lou Elizondo are kind of battling with, that want to deny his existence as a part of ATIP. And I think these are just people who don't want to deal with potential repercussions with disclosure. And I think that's a shame. And I think that they're doing a disservice to us. So long story short, there's still kind of an internal battle. You still have people who have different opinions about what should be released and what should not. I'm optimistic. I think the tide is changing. I don't think it's going to happen next year. I think we're looking at 10 years from now. That would be my guess if it does come out, that the government says, you know what, guys, the evidence is piled up. These new investigative approaches that we've developed, which hopefully they actually will. In the preliminary report, they mentioned that. And I thought that was one of the best parts of the report, to be honest. The recognition that they need to think about new ways to measure and identify and detect these phenomena. Out of the 144 that they mentioned, 80 were measured on multiple
sensors. Yes.
Yeah, sensors. Thank you. And so the question is, if that's not good enough, what other kind of sensors, what other kind of systems, detective systems are they going to develop? That's really exciting. And you have to have an outline like the 5 observables, which funny, I wanted to mention to you tonight because we're talking about how the paranormal and ufology all tie in. And I think that paranormal researchers need something like that, like the 5 observables,
right?
Whether it's cryptids or ghost hunting, because they're all kind of all over the place, right? Depending on who is investigating, they have their own methodology. At least now, I think finally, look, before we were cracking open the cases, all the work that ufologists had done, in leading up to today, was about exposing that, hey, look, this was a crash in maybe Aztec was an actual crash. We don't know. We'll find out hopefully one day if that was also another crash. But you have the Scott and Suzanne Ramsey, people like that going out there and doing the work. Now we're getting to the point where we're figuring out how to actually extract the information from the government. Lou Elizondo has opened up that door. And I do have faith that his intentions are 100% sincere, and that the work that he and Chris Mellon and To the Stars Academy initially, the work that they were going to do was going to do that, and we see that evident now. You have the Abbey Loeb project, the Galileo
project. Yes.
Yeah. You have all these other projects that are developing now that people are saying independently, you know what? We have an outline of how to approach this subject, how to observe these things. And we have enough inside knowledge with the encounters, whether it's, gimbal, go faster, who knows what else is out there, that we can actually approach this. And all these independent nonprofits are putting their heads together, and they're saying the same thing that the preliminary report said, which was we need to figure out new ways of detecting these things. And for me, that's a game changer, because that's Jacques Vallée was doing the best he could over the decades, but you really didn't have this camaraderie of effort, of technical prowess working really hard to figure this thing out. And that is what's most exciting to me about everything from 2017.
I think there should be two classifications, maybe three, but I think it's really simple. It's either Earth or not. And the only third possibility falls under the Earth category, which would be natural phenomena. Okay, but other than I think that's it. It's either us or them. It's either created here on Earth or it is not. Now, I wanted to ask you one last question before I let you go. Great conversation tonight, Alan. Is this? Do you think, based on the UAP Task Force report, which says we know nothing, do you think that the government actually knows the truth? Do you think the government has flying saucers in their possession, backwards technology, and reverse engineering and ET bodies, right? Because if they have all of that, then they already know what's going on.
I think it's a 99% chance that they do, and I think that only some of them, not the government as a whole, just some people have that intimate knowledge. Certainly crash have been retrieved, I believe. The question is, I always have this issue, though, because if they're so advanced, how do they crash so often? And why don't they crash in Manhattan? Why does it have to be in the desert, right? But, and that's why it's easy to kind of bring in, like this Friday, I'll be at the Pine Bush UFO and Paranormal Museum to do a lecture. If anybody wants to go, 7:30, tickets are still on sale. But that's why I incorporate that spiritual aspect of it, because whether we know the truth yet or not, there's always this element that speaks to, it's kind of like Star Trek. And why I like old Star Trek, because it offered you a future that was optimistic, a future potential. And I think that chasing UFOs is also us chasing a better future. And so that's, whether I find out in my lifetime or not, that's always going to be central to my research and my conversations.
Thank you so much, Alan. Is Pine Bush on your website over at paranormalnow.net? Get it on there.
Instagram at Paranormal Now.
There you go.
Thank you,
Alan B. Smith. Thank you so much, Alan. Enjoy the rest of your night, and welcome to the family over here at the NX Network, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jimmy. Have a nice day.
Right on. Alan B. Smith. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Coming up after the break, Jeff Kingsbury joins us. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer and NX Networks. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Your 1 million gigawatt paranormal powerhouse, KUNX-DB, VX.
This is Billy Carson with ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Forbidden Knowledge TV has just reached its 1-year anniversary. That's right, 1 year. And as a show of appreciation, we are giving all new subscribers a free 30-day trial of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's 30 days to binge watch thousands of movies, documentaries, conferences, workshops, lectures, yoga classes, meditation courses, and so much more. So log on to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv from your computer or mobile device, or get the Forbidden Knowledge TV app on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon, iTunes, or Google Play today, and use coupon code 30daysfree. That's coupon code 30 days free on ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Because you never got that pony you always wanted. Damn it. Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer. Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com.
Hi, Race Hobbs with the X. Obviously, if you're listening to this, you have an interest in unexplained phenomena like ghosts, Bigfoot, and UFOs. And by now, you know that we have our own X blog, the UnX newsletter, and the UnX magazine quarterly. But most of you don't know that we have started our very own paranormal conference. And this year, for safety, this 2-day XCon will be virtual, so you can attend from the comfort of your home. XCon presenters include Whitley Strieber, Micah Hanks, Margie Kay and Preston Dennett, Lisa Martin and Wayne Lawrence, Lee Spiegel, Debbie Zagelmeyer, Dan Terry, Kate Grabowski, and Ray Hernandez. There will also be a live paranormal investigation by the Riverside, Iowa Paranormal Team. So come hang out with us in the safety of home as we set out to explain the unexplained Friday, May 13th and Saturday the 14th, 2022. And tickets are on sale now. Go to unxnetwork.com. That's unxnetwork.com.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Race Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Thank you, Alan B. Smith. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, John Greenewald joins us. Right now, it's Jeff Kingsbury, Combat Infantry Veteran, and his show, Strange Recon, is about the ongoing mystery surrounding the subject of UFOs and other paranormal events. He is a lifelong adventurer who splits his time between living on a sailing vessel. We'll get to that. The boat is called Wind Tune. Wild Tune is Wind Tune. At an undisclosed location with his biosensor first mate, Cora Monroe, his German Shepherd. I would like to welcome for the first time to Fade to Black, Jeff Kingsbury. Jeff, good evening, my man. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great, Jimmy. Thanks for having me.
So, okay, first things first, Jeff. Got to do the first-time guest disclaimer, okay? Which is this. It's just you and I, Jeff, sitting on my couch, having a conversation as friends, and where the conversation starts, it starts. Where it ends. But we're going to end as friends. There you go. You ready? So,
absolutely.
So you are on a boat right now.
No. In fact, I'm not. I escaped I made it to northern Michigan this sailing season, it got locked in the ice, so to speak. So I spent the winter off in Boston. I'm up here in Boston area right now. Not actually Boston, but nearby.
Okay, all right. What kind of boat you got?
I have a 11-meter S2 sloop with mainsail furler. Makes it real easy. Can do long distance solo sails. I've sailed all around the United States. Not quite yet, not in one motion, but I've circumnavigated quite a bit of the country and some parts of the world, and it's a hobby of mine. I like to get away from society, you know what I mean?
I did some sailing as a youngster.
Nice.
I sunk a sailboat.
Me too.
I did in the Pacific Ocean, capsized it, and yeah, absolutely.
When was this?
This was, I would have been around 1979, 78, 79. I was probably 15, 16 years old. And yeah, man, it was crazy. Okay, enough of that. Let's.
Why not?
Well, we could tell sailing stories all night long, and
people want to hear about the boats.
Yeah. I'm telling you what, though. Okay, all right. I'm going to share this with you, but it's about you, and we're on limited time. But we're sailing. We're in the Pacific Ocean, and I've got the wheel. Right, I'm in the back, and my dad is starboard of the jib, facing land. Okay, the owner of the boat is below decks, and I could see him. Right, okay, and we're just cruising. Just came about off to port, about a quarter mile away, which is close. Out of the Pacific Ocean comes this, and I'm not exaggerating, 30-foot manta ray. Catches the wind. It's bigger than the boat that we're on. And it catches the wind and then goes back. For the rest of the day, my head was on a swivel. Just freaked out, just knowing that stuff is under the water. Right?
I'm not kidding you. I have like the exact same story outside of Tampa Bay. Real quick, I described it. You ever seen like a Jeep Wrangler hood pop up while driving down the highway?
I have. Yeah.
That's what it looked like. This giant, huge manta ray comes flying out of the water right next to the boat. And if it hit me, it probably would have knocked me out. But it was massive, right outside of Tampa Bay.
Yeah. It's I looked right in the mouth of this thing. You could have drove a Jeep Wrangler into the mouth of this thing. Now, how did you get your start in this? And, going from, the military into UFO radio, that's a pretty interesting journey.
Yeah, I had a bunch of stops in between, but essentially I'm just I found out later in life that I was a Bridgewater Triangle lifelong experiencer and had no idea there was all this immense amount of work built up about paranormal stuff in southeastern Massachusetts. I had no clue. So when I went to my first paranormal kind of conference and joined this paranormal investigation team, I started telling people my stories, and they're like, "Have you not read, any of these books?" And I started seeing that all my encounters were in there, and so that kind of led to like a life of trying to put these things in places. And then ultimately speaking, I went on a PTSD psychedelic experiment regimen at a doctor's office and had this crazy encounter that said, "We've been showing you this stuff your entire life, and you've been too embarrassed to talk about it. Get off your ass and start telling the world this all is happening," essentially. And so that's, I stopped working in television. I was doing that for years, and I thought this is a waste of time. I hate reality and unscripted, and I took a jump over to something a little more independent.
Yeah, I would say that a lot more independent and a serious dose of reality. Here's the deal, though. By the way, I watched Bridgewater Triangle last week. Again, I've seen it like 5-6 times. When it was first released, and I got the DVD, it was, 8 years ago or so. I've watched it many times. It holds its own. It's a really good documentary and a strange part of the world, Bridgewater.
Place. It's super cool.
Yeah, totally. I still want to go find that hobo clown shack, right?
Oh, you mean the torture place
there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's there still.
Is it really?
Yeah, they because people go and visit it, they don't want to forget it, and if people don't know what we're talking about, quite literally, they found like when they say that they don't know how cattle, we've never caught a culprit with cattle mutilations and things like that. Well, that kind of a lot of that originated right there where they caught a cult stealing cows, running them around in circles and sticking a pipe in their neck and would drain all the blood out of it. And then they would do weird, sick cult stuff down there. And that whole Satan, what was it called back in the mid 80s? Satanic Panic.
Yes.
There was PhD papers and FBI documents to show the state police of Massachusetts how to deal with it. It had a lot of like sexology and weird stuff it was a time. I don't know. It wasn't my time, but there was a time.
Yeah, no doubt. The UFO side of things, when you were in the military, did you have any sightings? And what was the military, considering what's happening today with the military, right? Like every branch and UFOs. When you were in the service, what was the attitude about UFOs then?
There wasn't. I was too busy doing the job. And though I had a couple insignificant experiences, there wasn't. My unit was a little too, I don't want to sound like I'm, building myself up here, but my little unconventional infantry unit was a little too high speed to be dealing with anything else. But we were on this kind of DARPA program at the time to work on the first heads-up display in an infantry unit. The one that is linked directly to what might have happened in the Nimitz encounter. But it's I was working on the land warrior system, and so we kind of had our head in the tech stuff for a while. We weren't doing anything else but trying to catch the bad guy, if you will, running and gunning. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. Have you had your own sighting?
Oh yeah, no, I've had when I in the military I had a few insignificant ones, but I've had like the biggest one specifically is when I was a child and my mother didn't believe me or the babysitter didn't believe me, but one day we're walking back from feeding the horses back in 1996, and I was a youngster. It's not that long ago, but I'm walking back, and we fed the horses the same time every night in southeastern Massachusetts. The sun's kind of going down. It's late summer. We look up in the sky, and about 7,000 feet right there in Taunton, Mass, there's this black triangle aircraft. It had 3 white lights on it, about 7,000 feet up. We could see it. It was a triangle, but a small one because it was high up. We took another step, and my mother yelled, I can't swear, but she said, "Holy ass," she swore, she screamed, and she ran for her life. I looked up to see what she was looking up at, and right above the house, this thing had dropped down right, like quite literally right above us. And it went from my neighbor's driveway to the dead end road. It had 3 white lights, nothing in the center. It had the only part of it that wasn't the same color, which was all gunmetal black, was the very rear part, the stern, which had I could only say gunmetal, like it was like raw metal. And I always just say as a child, it looked like giant toenail clippers clipped it away because it had the shape of like that, kind of like the rounded shape of I was a child, I don't know. But it slid over sideways silently. It bent all the trees over right in front of us. Like literally all the trees bent and twisted and all types of crazy stuff. It turned towards the nursing home on Norton Ave in Taunton, Massachusetts, and slowly drifted down the stream right to the nurse home, and then we lost sight of it over there. And that's the new stealth bomber. And I called Otis Air Force Base and became that kid. They used to call Otis all the time and try to talk to anyone about it. It got me on, going to libraries and looking up things. And a few years later, I ended up finding out that I was just one of the people in southeastern Massachusetts that has encountered that giant flying triangle. I had absolutely no idea it was a common thing. It's so common, in fact, that people refer to the 3 lights that come out of the Hockomock Swamp like they're an everyday sighting. I had never even heard of it at the time.
Now, wait, hold on a second. So you have a Class A sighting with your family.
Yeah.
And this black triangle comes down above your house, and you've got a clear view of this.
Crystal clear.
When you look back at it now, was it our tech? Was that the United States Air Force? Was that DARPA, right? Or was that something otherworldly?
Everything inside me praised to whoever, praised to science or the universe or the source code or God that it's ours. That's just me as being like a veteran or whatever, because it was so unbelievable. And I tell you, in a one single step for a 9-10-year-old child, that's what it took for it to go for like 7,000 feet to right above our heads. And my mother's reaction was perfect. All those if you see a UFO, you just freeze stories, that is not what happened at all. She thought a UFO was going to literally crash through our house on top of our head. And her first reaction was to abandon her child in the backyard. She just took off running. And that was reasonable to me, but I was fascinated.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, what's your approach today and your view? Because you have a unique perspective here, being a combat infantry veteran, and the way that the military is approaching. When I say the military, I'm speaking of the Pentagon, the Department of Defense.
Yeah.
And what they are doing today when it comes to UFOs / UAPs and their approach to this. What's your take on it?
Well, from my position, because I'm not special or anything, but I'll tell you that the Navy had a UAP problem, as they've described UAPs, for 30-something years now. It had nothing to do with aliens whatsoever. It had to do Tyler Rogoway nailed it like dead on accurate. That and it's the truth. If you follow the contracts and stuff and the evolution of anti-drone technology, you go from everywhere from like 1987, they're trying to figure out how to launch nets, to today where they're literally using what they call like Ghostbuster packs with these big it looks like an M16 lower receiver with like a cone on the front, and they have the drone Sentry X boats they've made that are stealth boats that shoot right out under these UAPs and knock them out of the sky. And it's a tough pill to swallow sometimes, because I still believe that there is. I mean, I've had other experiences that are too. I sound like a Looney Tune talking about them. But the truth of the matter is that I absolutely believe the Earth is being visited by something fantastical, whether it lives here or it's visiting here, whatever, or it's not all one thing. I just happen to know that it's not a guess to me anymore. It's literally, I know that our service members are in danger because the amount of time we've given our adversaries to develop ways to get through the giant Colossus Goliath structure that is our battlefield awareness. When I was in the military, we used things like FBCB2, which was systems that basically, it was a failure, of course, but it was basically a way to link all these operations together at once. And those same things, the one system and all these systems have flaws. And unfortunately, when when the U.S. gets real good at like rolling through the South China Sea, like, what are you going to do about it? You know what I mean? After a couple of years, you give it 40, 50 years, the Chinese start figuring out like how to get around certain things, and their confidence goes up. I mean, and to the point where now you can see where they literally fly right over Taiwan. They don't even like go around it or go, if we come near, they up their flights. It's like, and all of this puts our service members in extreme danger, because what has happened is basically, I in my personal opinion, this is my own, not the NX Network or anyone else, it's just mine, is that there is a flaw in some system that is allowing primitive technology and regular UAS systems to get past our stuff. And in doing so, they legit put our service members in danger. And because we have this Goliath-like system, and these little primitive things are the ones getting through, no one wants to admit that we might have put billions into a system that is not exactly the most perfect operating system out there. Mm-hmm. And so to link it to what's going on right today, let's face the facts, Mr. Church, and I'm sure you know this, you've been around a lot longer than I. This field of ufology is a great place for people to make money that are directly linked to that topic in some way or another, that they're not breaking their NDAs, they're not necessarily even telling lies, because there is a UAP problem. Mm-hmm. There is a real UAP, so they'll never, as long as they don't dip out of the context. But I mean, I just got done talking to Christian Lambright for 3 hours before I got on with you, and the guy laid out everything that happened to Paul Benowitz to today so perfectly. It was just like a puzzle coming together with basically no bias. It was just like what we know today, and what we know is that, yeah, UFOs are here and they're sometimes interacting with us, but it seems that our red teams are telling the truth, and we need to start taking that hard pill to swallow, which is we might be compromised to our adversaries right here on planet Earth.
Now, if we take that, and I understand everything that you just said, and I'm sure that not only is it a problem, but it is stuff that is being encountered all the time. Absolutely. But what David Fravor describes is not what you are describing as primitive technology that is breaking through the Goliath.
Yeah, well, that is one end of it for sure. And it is, believe it or not, though. It sounds like it's not. It's really counterintuitive to put this way. And this is just my hypothesis, of course. There's multiple. The reason why I feel like I'm connected, because my DARPA program I worked on for the heads-up display, I think that heads-up display or neural implants have something very deep to do with what happened there. But the 5 observables have been beat by our own tech pretty easily. I mean, I just heard them discussed a minute ago, but the sudden instantaneous acceleration There have been hologram defense systems that are in play right now. The Chinese brag about them. They say, I dare you to launch a weapon at us. We literally shoot ghost jets out the bottom of our jets. They take the shape of jets. They show up on your different spectrums of your weapons. And also it looks like it's defying physics because basically you can move it as fast as a laser array can take. It shows up on all the weapon systems that are involved in our current service members. Hypersonic velocities without signatures. Well, a plasma ball does not leave a signature other than where you're telling the signature to be.
Sure.
Yeah. And of course, they're oftentimes used from submersibles. What did Fravor and others, and including the very unknown Douglas Schultz there? What is his name? The other pilot that was above Fravor and all those people that no one ever talks about, that says he never saw a single thing. He just saw the disturbance in the water. Those observables seem to be kind of transmedium travel. There has been transmedium aircraft developed from DARPA to the Chinese, the Russians, and everyone in between for years and years and years. Positive lift. Well, I think that one's obvious. We've got things in the air that just move upwards there are self-inflating counter ICBM and electronic warfare foil balloons out there that do the exact same thing. You actually see old technology returning. It was just used in Russia and Ukraine the other day. The New York Times posted an article with a headline, "Mysterious Munitions Used in the Ukraine." They shot a rocket, and what it did was it burst apart, allegedly. But this is exactly what we're expecting to some degree. We don't know. It's not going to be some Colossus breakthrough in knowledge or revelation, but they shot a missile, and that missile spoofed our system by letting out basically what looked like flag football, things that were temperature controlled, spoofed the system, and allowed the rest of the rockets to go through. That was something that was invented like in the early 80s, but then went away because we had IR satellites and you didn't need to launch things anymore. But now, I can ramble about this forever, but now that the Chinese have an orbitable vehicle that can park in orbit, just wait for its operation. It's a glide vehicle. It doesn't set off any heat signature other than the one that's forming on the coat of its hull when it's coming in. But of course, also active camouflage, low observability. When I was a private, I got to see active camouflage. Like, that's how common it was. I tell everyone this on my show. If the infantry uses it, the civilians have it, and it's been in operation in the CIA for 35 years. Like, we get it last.
So if we're going to defeat the laws of gravity and Newtonian physics and quantum physics and go from 80,000 feet to sea level in a portion of a second and not have a sonic boom or a disturbance in the water, and a release of energy that would have to happen when this thing stops. All of these things come into play.
Yeah.
If you're going to defeat all of that, two things are in play. Either it's a projection, right, traveling at the speed of light, or it's some kind of anti-gravitic technology that we don't understand. It's either or.
One other.
What's the third?
Electronic countermeasures. This is something that was talked about right away when this happened. But
that third. Okay, I don't want to debate when we're on limited time, but I would say this. But according to Fravor, he saw it. It would apply in electronic countermeasures if you're only going to see it on radar and sensor equipment, right? But if you're seeing it with your own eyes, then it's something else altogether.
Well, I do think they were using a heads-up display. I think they were using a augmented reality heads-up display, and there are, and like, of course, there are parts of this I simply cannot, it's like alleged conspiracy or whatever. I cannot fill in the blank of too, but I do think we don't know the whole story at all, and there's a reason why there was a story pitched and a few that have been directly linked to the birth of this thing. I mean, said that they didn't want to read from a script or whatever. I don't know. I personally, I don't want to sound like I'm this super cynical person about it, but I mean, to me, when this whole thing started up, I got really excited because of UAP. And then I remembered what everyone, I worked on government contracts, and I everything that I was being told about Lou Elizondo was off. And here's why. I mean, like, when someone says they're a crusader for taking a contractor job, here's the deal. In the military, not here's the deal. I don't even talk like that, but in the infantry, if you legit leave the infantry for a contractor position, you're getting paid a ton more money. The infantry or CI jobs, things like that, we don't get signing bonuses while working for the Pentagon or the military. But when you leave and you go take a job somewhere else, there's share options, there's signing bonuses. You're not a hero. The whistleblowers and crusaders tend not to live good lives, profitable lives after the book deals and things like that. And quite frankly, when we've mixed the names UFO and UAP, I guess for stigma reasons, but we've made them as ambiguous as birds, balloons, and everything else, and that already is a problem that the Navy has been dealing with for years. You can see the contracts are out there in the hundreds of millions of dollars. In fact, one just got awarded the other day the only one bidder. That's how few companies are helping the Navy solve this problem. There was one bidder for the entire anti-drone problem they're dealing with. Again, I've had so many weird experiences, and so everyone I know that knows me, I'm a high integrity person. I'm not going to waste anyone's time. I'm too lazy to be lying about it. But it's just, to me, it screams a narrative that almost, I couldn't tell you what for, but it sure does seem like one of the most expensive systems in play can be spoofed and has now made our service members vulnerable. And we're all talking about like ghost busting and stuff. It's like, holy cow, hold on, let's make sure all our service members are safe before we say that these things out there are some sort of otherworldly travelers who are affecting our DNA, living under the ocean, creating moon bases, projection beams. It's like, whoa, well, I haven't heard Lou talk about UAPs once since he's been out. He's only been talking about aliens. Not one time. And that whole concept of that office was to protect the force. That's what his... Yeah,
Interesting. Interesting. I think you should go back and listen to some of Lou's interviews on this show, though. It's an interesting road that he finds himself on now, and certainly pushing for this in Washington. Him and Chris Mellon, and trying to get to these answers. I think it's most important, because if the government knows anything, they're not going to volunteer it, and we have to have somebody there to keep the pressure on. And I just think that's the best way forward. And I'm excited about where we are today. And I will agree with you, though, Jeff, is that there are definitely two things going on here. The universe is just too big. There's tons of life out there, and they are fully aware, if they're an advanced alien civilization, they're fully aware of planet Earth, just like we are looking for exoplanets every single day, right? Okay, so we have that. And then we have the issues here on Earth with our adversaries and with Skunk Works, right? And the development of things. So sure, the two things are running at the same time, and we need to separate and try to figure out one from the other. And certainly I think that's pointed in the UAP Task Force report, where they don't know what is going on, and they're trying to get to the bottom of it. When does your show air?
It's on the NX Network on Wednesdays, 9 p.m. Opening up for you, good sir, on 9. And every other, on my own show every day, I'm on there doing a little radio for a couple hours, 3 hours a day.
You're the best, Jeff. Hey, man, welcome to the family.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you having me.
Next time, we'll focus on one issue.
That sounds perfect. We should probably play some music. I've been wanting to play a jam with you for damn near 8 years or so.
I'll talk to you, Jeff. Let's get that done.
All right, see you later.
Have a great night. This is Fade to Black. Jeff Kingsbury. His show is Strange Recon, and you can also go to strangerecon.com. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'll be right back with John Greenewald. Stay with me.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
You're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
This is Jimmy Church. Jason Martell's book, Knowledge Apocalypse 10-Year Anniversary Edition, is now available. Most ancient cultures speak of a time when their gods visited them. They never say their gods came from across the ocean or from the mountains. They always came down from the skies. Was ancient man visited by gods or extraterrestrials? We have not been told the full truth about our human past. There was a time when all the ancient cultures lived amongst beings they considered their gods. The search for truth leads us down the path of learning where the ETs might come from and why they are here. To understand some of these advanced topics and learn the truth about human origins, buy the new book from Jason Martell, Knowledge Apocalypse, now in its 10-year anniversary edition, available on Amazon.com by clicking on the banners over on our site, or simply visit jasonmartell.com. That's jasonmartell.com. Do you want to be an official Fade or Not? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. Fade or Nots. When you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. I want to thank Alan B. Smith for coming in earlier and Jeff Kingsbury. Man, lighting it up tonight. Up next, John Greenewald. John Greenewald of the Black Vault began researching the secrets of the U.S. government in 1996 at the age of 15, targeting the CIA, FBI, Pentagon, Air Force, Army, Navy, NSA, DIA, and countless others. Greenewald utilized the Freedom of Information Act to gain access to millions of records. He named his online archive the Black Vault, and the rest is history. I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, John Greenewald. John, you did it again, man. You did it again.
Well, I don't know what I did, but it's good to be back here, Jimmy. Thanks for inviting me.
Man, you look sunburned. What the heck?
I am. I'm glad that you're not broadcasting the video. You should have saw me 2 days ago. I told you that my son had a soccer tournament. Ooh, I got roasted out there. So I got the raccoon.
Yeah, you do, man.
Eyes.
Yeah, for real. Like for real. Yeah, you got the hat. You got the hat.
Yeah, and like I said, you should have saw me two days ago. It was pretty embarrassing.
Oh, right on, man. Right on. It's so funny as you get older. I mean, sunscreen and things like that were never part of growing up. You know, and it just wasn't. It is when you get older.
Yeah, sadly. So I even put it on too, but I sun got to me. It was in Ventura, so. beautiful sunshine, overcast, and that roasts me even worse.
So you did it again. I don't know how you managed to pull all of this off. You've got and right now, currently, you've got a lot of irons in the fire. And I really appreciate the way that you keep everybody updated on your frustrations, and that is a key to this. And I think that we all know that in the future here, some things are going to be coming in. We just don't know the timing of it, but you're keeping us all updated. But this classified version of the report, I was relieved to see that the media was not tiring of this subject and immediately picked up on your efforts over the last couple of weeks, not only with the classified report, but of course the Obama archives at the library. This was big news throughout the media around the world, wasn't it? It was pretty crazy couple of weeks.
Yeah, it was. It did start with that Obama story where I had discovered potentially well over 100,000 pages on UFOs, UAP, and ultimately ATIP and OSAP. They broke it down a little bit. Obviously, through the Obama years, that program was going on. And it seems that the Obama White House had some UFO records. So to quickly summarize it, because a lot of people were throwing things like, oh, these are newspaper articles, these are publicly available, just essentially newspaper clippings that were forwarded around internally. My search omitted all of that. It also omitted public letters. So let's say Jimmy Church sends a letter to the Obama administration, that will be archived in the presidential records. We know that for a fact. We've seen it in past presidential libraries. Jimmy Carter is one that has thousands of them. I omitted that too. So they have literally thousands upon thousands of digital files, which essentially total, it appears to be over 100,000 pages on UFOs. And so we have a large trove of information waiting to be uncovered. Now, the downside to that was the estimate of how long it would take for them to review the material. And they told me 16 years. Mm-hmm. And that's when I don't accept that. And so I am currently in a fight with them to get what's called a expedited request granted. They denied it, and I feel that I have met their criteria from top to bottom. So I have appealed that to a higher authority. They call it the appellate authority, and we'll see what happens. So that fight is still going on. I mean, a lot of people just were like, oh, 16 years, who cares? Just know that I didn't accept that. And in fact, I think I put up a good case for it to be expedited.
Now, what's the alternative? Do you go to the Obama library yourself and go through the documents and make copies and take photographs? Can you do that?
Well, in some cases you can, but the Obama library is not like that. So they do not have it open for researchers to go in, because I offered that. Is there any way? And by the way, I didn't note that these numbers are the unclassified material. So even though that it needs to be reviewed, the classified material hasn't even been tallied yet. So I had offered, I said, what if I fly there? Can I see the unclassified material? And the Obama library, for whatever reason, has everybody shut out of the library when it comes to that. So they turn that down. So the alternative is to wait, or you work with them to try and round down your request, because not everything that goes in takes 16 years. But with the size that this yielded, the size of information, they're saying it's 16 years. So I'm hoping they're going to figure out a way to help alleviate that load, because, they estimated 4.5 million pages that needed to be reviewed before my request. And it only was about 86 or so cases. And what that means in plain English is 86 cases yielded 4.5 million pages. The government should push back a little bit on the requester to hone it down a little bit. And as much as I don't want to do that as a researcher, I want everything. Nobody wants to do that. If the alternative is waiting nearly 2 decades, then let's all work together and try and round it down a little bit. So the fact that they're not forcing requesters to do that and just saying, oh, okay, we got to review 150,000 pages for your request. It's bad management, in my opinion. So as much as I don't want to do that, I want to encourage these types of fixes for these agencies, but specifically a presidential library that's just getting their feet on the ground. So they may not realize that they can push back a little bit. And I not to repeat myself, don't like doing that as a requester. But hey, if it chops my 16-year to 2 or 3 years, but I get less information, fine. Let's start there.
I mean, I'm picturing some old guy, old lady, 1 page at a time going over to the copy machine, right? And that's why it's taken 16 years. Aren't these all digital at this point?
Not everything. So there were about 3,000 to 4,000 paper files that were in the process of being digitized that were responsive to my request. The 20,000+ digital files, which when I omitted the things that I already went over, I think it came down to about 14,000 was the last number. And so they estimate that those digital files, again, are roughly 100,000 pages. What those are, I'm not sure. I was trying to get those details from them. So yes, the majority of it is digitized, but there's still a lot of paper records, even during the Obama administration, that needs to be reviewed and scanned and digitized.
Well, okay, so put the 3,000 aside. We'll circle back to that. Dropbox me the 14,000 files. Let's go. I mean,
yeah, I wish that it worked like that. So even though the material is unclassified, it still requires a review. So there could be personal cell phone numbers, addresses, social security numbers, for whatever reason. Again, I'm just kind of going off the top of my head here. But even though documents are unclassified, there are still exemption categories that apply to unclassified material. Again, personally identifying information is one. Accidental labeling of unclassified information with something is classified as another. That does happen also, where presidential records are off limits until 5 years after they leave office. So a lot of times in the White House, those type of document controls slip a little bit. Nobody really likes talking about that, but it happens because the FOIA just doesn't apply. So they're off limits. So a lot of times they're creating these documents, and they may have a secret paragraph in there where the document should be secret, but they don't. It's unclassified and it goes. So long list of reasons why they just can't dump unclassified material out there. I really wish they could, but they just won't do it.
Yeah, I don't see an automated process for that. It seems like there should be some type of machine learning software to go in and extract, redact names and addresses. I get that part, right? The personal identifiers and removing that. But the other stuff, classified paragraphs, potentially, that's just somebody's got to read it.
Yeah. And that's what it is. It's a manual review from top to bottom, making sure that nothing is exempted. And that's just the unclassified. They have controlled unclassified information. So again, it doesn't matter what the classification is. It needs a review no matter what, regardless.
So what's the purpose of having access to this if nobody can have access to it? Right? If you've got to wait 16 years to have access to it, then everybody's going to throw up their hands and nobody's ever going to see it. So what's the purpose of even having these documents in the library?
So the at least the saving grace in this is that not every agency has 16-year wait times. And that's what I mean about this library. Hopefully somebody will go in and reform their process a little bit, because they're just open at the end of January. So that was the 5-year mark. After the Trump administration and the first year of Biden, now the Obama library is open. So I think that they're still kind of getting their feet on the ground and understanding the process. Right. That's my speculation. I don't know that for a fact. But again, with 4.5 million pages that they're saying, we got to review all those. No, most agencies will push back. If I filed a request to the CIA or the NSA and it yielded 100,000 pages, they'll push back on me and they'll say, no, that you need to round this down a little bit, and we'll get that 100,000 down to 5,000 or 10,000. And that's understandable. You can also fight it in some cases and just say, no, I'll pay for all 100,000, but you're looking at a huge charge. So the fact that the library is not doing that, is also kind of confusing to me. So in my appeal, I said I would continue to work with the library to whittle this down into something that is much more reasonable. But I still feel that I met the requirement for an expedited processing. So I'm waiting for that appeal to come in. If it's granted, then it goes back to the library, and then they start working with me on winding this down a little bit and getting it whittled to something that's more reasonable.
I want to move on to the UAP Task Force report, and I'm going to let the audience know that John Greenewald is sitting in front of me with a sunburnt face and an O'Neill T-shirt, trying to look like he's OG cool.
Well, since it's just us, I am OG cool. Okay, just don't broadcast the video. Yeah, I
got an O'Neill T-shirt on, man.
Yeah,
that is.
Yeah,
old
I'm
school.
usually in the black, the button down black vault logo on it. But hey,
O'Neill.
We're buddies. You ain't broadcasting the video, so I'm in my jammies.
There you go. There you go. Now, the UAP Task Force report. Now, I would like to know how you pulled it off. One, I don't think that was an easy feat. I know that you've done a video on this, and you've done a great write-up over at the Black Vault, and I've put out the links, but I encourage everybody to go and check that out. And you can go and download the file. I've been talking about this now for a week, and I'm sure that most of the audience has already accessed the document over at the Black Vault. When we call this classified, when we go back to June 25th of 2021, and we had the classified and the unclassified versions of the report. We all read the unclassified version. This is the classified section, correct?
The classified version. So the 9-pager that we all got was the public version. The Congress got a 17-page version. So it wasn't a section of it, but rather it was a expanded version. So what I did in the video is literally put them side by side and chopped up the 9 pages and showed what they likely did was took the 17-page document as a starting point, then chopped it to 9 pages, and then that's what was released to the public. And I'm including the title page in that, but it was like 7 of the report. But regardless, it was like a 9-page report. So they chopped it essentially in half. So I think that they had the starting version and then went down to the public version. So what I had done in a nutshell is that Friday when it was published to the general public, we all knew that there was going to be a classified report. And so I had immediately filed what's called a mandatory declassification review to get that version reviewed and potentially declassified. Obviously, my target is declassified in full, but I didn't have high hopes for that. But I did have high hopes for declassified in part, and that's what happened. So fast forward down to this last week, it took from June 26th, 2021 to last week to get this report. My follow-ups, my annoyances to the ODNI numbered well into the double digits. Most of them were ignored. I was given the impression this would take about 6 to 8 weeks. I was doubtful but hopeful. And sadly, it again took till this last week here in March of 2022. So it's a process that is very similar to FOIA, but to really kind of summarize the difference, an MDR forced the agency to take the classified version and immediately put it into a review. So you can do that. That's our right under MDR. It's a code of federal regulation, and it varies for every agency. But it allows us, it affords us the opportunity to go to that agency and say, okay, look, you have this classified video, classified photo, or classified report. Here's my request to have that reviewed. And as long as it had not been reviewed in the last 2 years, then they need to review it. And in this particular case, it was brand new, hot off the press. So regardless of it being published as classified, it was never reviewed. So my case forced them to immediately do it. One myth that's out there is that it has to wait. You have to wait 25 years for classified information to be reviewed and declassified. That is all bunk. That is not true. This report wasn't even 24 hours, and I had it already in a review process.
So now let me ask the obvious question, because I don't think anybody on this planet has laid eyes on more documents than John Greenewald, and that's it. So that being said, with the anticipation of and our knowledge of the original release of the public side of this, the unclassified, back in June of 2021, versus what you got your hands on finally released last week, what's your take of the classified side of this?
Well, I was taken aback last year when they told me that the classified version was only 17 pages long. And that has erupted into a controversy that started last year and really ramped up again this week. And in short, the reason is because there were a small handful of people that were speaking with authority that what Congress was handed was a 74-page, 78-page, even a 400-page document that was given to Congress. We weren't talking about drafts. We weren't talking about classified briefings. I only pulled those that were speaking with that authority. And in fact, it was on your show as well, where these numbers were given. So when I reported last year that it was 17 pages, I mean, I got blasted by some corners of this conversation, simply because there were all these other numbers floating around. When I got it this last week and it confirmed it was 17 pages, that controversy has erupted again. So that is actually one of my bigger takeaways, not because there's the controversy, but rather the smaller size. The public got the 9-pager, and yes, granted, this is bigger, but I would have thought that they would have more. So when I learned it last year, but then it solidified in this last week, that to me was kind of indicative that they really didn't give Congress that much. What we can, however, see from the 17-page report is that Congress did get details on cases that we didn't know about. Now, we know that they started from 2004. We knew that from the public report. Obviously, that's the Nimitz. I think that's a safe assumption. But we started seeing other encounters of multiple objects being detected by not only the pilots and wizzos of the aircraft, but also multiple sensors, ones that were essentially outperforming our aircraft in high wind environments. That's what Congress saw. And now that this is declassified, in part, we are able to see some of those details and start to see that whatever this phenomena is, it is something that isn't just stories. They're not just people coming forward and say, hey, I saw this and I saw that and my aircraft this and my aircraft that. No, that's not what this was. This reinforces that the incidents that they looked into were, in addition to the stories and testimony, there were multiple what they called reliable systems that were used as corroborating evidence to support that they were having these strange unidentified encounters. So in a nutshell, that's really what this 17-page report showed me, was that there's a lot more. And then to kind of further that thought, there's a lot more classification about some of this that also surprised me. Now, some of these redactions, they're going to be acceptable, right? They're going to make sense. When we talk about our classified weapon systems, our sensors, stuff like that, those redactions, although are frustrating, you can understand why they're there. They don't want to talk about our capabilities or ultimately our vulnerabilities. However, that wasn't what was the entire part that was redacted. One of the most frustrating was the shapes of UAP.
Yes. So page 13, I think.
Right. And there were a couple other pages that referenced what the common shapes were. So they had the table and the breakdown.
Right.
And that was obviously the most frustrating because there's either diagrams, photographs, or
silhouettes.
Both.
Yes.
So there's a lot of speculation on what's under that, but it was completely black. So we know the header that it was a table of, which were the common shapes, and then underneath that were the irregular shapes or uncommon shapes, all redacted, wouldn't show us a single shape. And then there were other pages that were talking about what the summation of the cases were. that a lot of the cases had, redacted shapes. So they didn't give away any of that type of information. And in my appeal, what I did was I specifically targeted that information, saying it doesn't make sense for you guys to redact this as long as there's no identifying information or a sensitive reveal of anything classified, which I highly doubt in a picture or a still frame. We're not talking about metadata, so there's going to be none of that. What's the justification to classify it? And there's none, in my opinion. They did cite what is the exemption for military operations and military plans, and none of that makes sense either, because if they say in their report, which they did, that they could not peg a single case to U.S. technology or top secret technology, or even in the commercial sector, any type of secret tech whatsoever, then how can you say it's military plans and, military operations that allowed you to exempt this? So that's what I'm fighting. And so I formulated my appeal to target those areas, saying this doesn't make sense. So you can't say in one breath, it's not us, and then redact it saying, it's our plans. Well, that doesn't make sense. So something doesn't sit right there. So I'm hoping that my appeal will be granted and some of this will come out.
I really want to see the table of shapes. I just don't see the need for that to be redacted, unless it's going to reveal the shape of some Russian drone, right? I doubt that is what is in there.
Yeah, and let me just comment on that really quick. And I use this in my video presentation. Because there's speculation on that. Could this be imagery of drones, either foreign or domestic, of a classified level? So I had discovered through a FOIA request a couple months ago that there was a UAP encounter with the USS Stout. The Snoopy team, which is the onboard team that goes out to the deck and takes pictures, that's right. The Snoopy team took multiple pictures. What I got reviewed and released from the Navy was what it appeared to be a PowerPoint slide where the USS Stout was, and 3 different photographs that the Snoopy team took, 2 of which were released, 1 of which was redacted. However, in one of the photos, you can clearly see it was a quadcopter drone. There's no doubt about it. But the drone was unidentified. They couldn't figure out who it was. It wasn't us. They couldn't identify it, and it came up under a UAP request. My whole point in showing this is that when it comes to clearly identifiable drone technology, they release the pictures. So my question, and I use this in my appeal, is if you guys will release Snoopy photographs of what you label as UAP, and it's clearly drone technology that you cannot identify, then what is underneath this? And if it's more of that, then declassify it, because here's my proof that I've already got you to do it. If it is something else, then that makes it a little bit more interesting, because obviously the skeptical argument with drones has definitely floated around, even by myself. I think that that's part of this conversation. But my whole point with that section is, if I can get you to release through the Navy declassified images from the Snoopy team, there's no reason you should withhold similar imagery there.
Let's take our break right here. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. John Greenewald is here. We're breaking down the UAP TF classified redacted version that he got released last week. We'll be right back.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Your 1 million gigawatt paranormal powerhouse, KUNX-DB, The X.
Are you ready to read about true paranormal events? UNX Media publishes nonfiction books about UFOs, ghosts and haunted places, time anomalies, cryptid creatures, and more. Just like KUNX-DB Radio, it's all about unexplained phenomena. Visit www.unxmedia.com to see our list of great book titles by Debbie Ziegelmeyer, Gene Walker, Devin Listrom, Wayne Lawrence, Bill Spicer, and yours truly, Margie Kay. That's unxmedia.com.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to getthetea.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's getthetea.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from Rivermoon. Just click on the Rivermoon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact.
When you're in the house for longer periods of time, you can see them flying or running across the floor. Ooh, yuck. They're unhealthy, gross, and disgusting. Bugs. I loathe bugs. We keep a clean home, but occasionally bugs show up. Well, I found something that is tougher than bugs. Orange Guard. On contact, it kills hidden bugs, including ants, roaches, and fleas. Plus, Orange Guard is a residual repellent. All of the ingredients of Orange Guard are on the FDA generally recognized as safe list. Orange Guard may be used around food, humans, and pets. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Orange Guard. Available at orangeguard.com, Whole Foods, and Ace Hardware.
Gold loves chaos, uncertainty, and disarray. History shows us what gold does when people aren't sure about the government, the stock market, their jobs, or their retirement savings. Our national debt is skyrocketing. Gold and other precious metals are a defense measure against inflation and a stock market that might take years to recover. So what can you do right now to protect yourself? Call United Gold Group. We offer gold and other precious metals delivered securely within 72 hours. Are you worried about the stock market? We can also help you set up a real gold or silver IRA or a 401k. Safe and secure. United Gold Group makes gold ownership affordable. Call now and get up to $2,500 in free gold or silver with a qualified IRA. Call 800-753-8534. That's 800-753-8534 or visit unitedgoldgroup.com.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. John Greenewald is with us. Last week, he secured the release of the classified portion of the UAP Task Force report that was released in June 25th of 2021. And the good news about all of this is I don't have to ask John to stay over for the last segment. He already said yes. So there you go. John, I want to go straight to page 5. And I want to, I think page 5 addresses exactly what we're talking about here when it comes to drones and the possibility of this. Because I don't, there isn't anywhere in this report where they take the easy road out and point at drones. It's never mentioned once. And they do make a point in this report to emphasize that these sensors can differentiate what they need to see. And if we go to the bottom half of page 5, there's that yellow section. And I want to point out one thing, and then I want to get to the bottom half of this, which says that the sensor vantage points and the numbers of sensors concurrently observing an object play substantial roles in distinguishing UAP from known objects and determining whether UAP demonstrates breakthrough aerospace capabilities. I don't think a quadcopter is demonstrating breakthrough aerospace capabilities. Do you?
No, okay. I don't.
So we're in the safe zone there, right?
I think so. I mean, unless they're talking about some kind of foreign adversary that has that technology that is far surpassed us. And of course, that's a possibility that they just couldn't peg it as one. But to me, no, it doesn't scream that that's what they're talking about.
Now, and then at the bottom of the page, and this is where I want to get your overall take on this. The last section is redacted. It starts out, the most common shape described by military personnel in their reporting was redacted. See figure 1, right? Which we don't have. Military aviators describe many of these blanks objects as blanks or that blank, right? Several sightings were blank and resembled blank shapes like figure 1A, 4, right? 1-4A or 1-4A redacted. So what's your take on this?
Yeah, this is the hard one for me. So when you talk about on the same page, the redactions above, and they're talking about sensors mounted on U.S. military platforms and so on, the redactions there make sense because you're talking about the capabilities. The citation that is cited is 1.4G. And just for those curious, it translates to vulnerabilities or capabilities of systems, installations, infrastructures, project plans, or protection services. So essentially, it's just safeguarding our vulnerabilities and capabilities. Fast forward to what you just read about the shapes. That's what it doesn't make sense to me that they would do that. 1.4A translates to military plans, weapon systems, or operations. And I just don't see it. Why, if they can't peg this as us, and they clearly say that in the report, you can't redact descriptions based on it being us of military plans or operations or our weapon systems. So that one I'm fighting. And I find it incredibly intriguing that they don't want to tell us the characteristics. It does not surprise me that they want to withhold anything that has sensitive data or references our vulnerabilities or capabilities. That doesn't surprise me at all. I support those redactions, as frustrating as they are, but they need to be there. But the shape of an object, no, I can't see any justification for it whatsoever. And then on top of that, the citation is completely wrong.
Now, things really kick off on page 6, and I've talked about page 6 now for a week. Page 6 is a science fiction Hollywood movie release. Very, very interesting here. What's your take on page 6?
Well, this obviously shows that they've broken down some of the key characteristics and events that they looked into, which they did not in the public report, and broke that down for Congress. So Congress is getting a glimpse at what these capabilities of UAP are. And they talk about the different incidents in the middle of the page. You can see that essentially the capability of the UAP is redacted. So I can see capabilities of U.S. tech being redacted. But if they're talking about some unidentified something, then what is classified about it going a certain speed or at a certain altitude or whatever that may be? Does that reveal our vulnerability? Maybe. It's kind of a gray area for me. I can kind of see it either way. But regardless, for me, this is why I love stuff like this, because it really does show the classified setting. Even though we don't get to see underneath all the black, it shows in a classified setting what Congress ultimately saw. And that's what's great about this page, because it shows that they are going into detail of the cases themselves.
Where they start out with, in 18 incidents described in 21 reports, observers reported unusual UAP movement patterns or flight characteristics and or redacted. What is redacted there?
I don't know. And it should be noted that flight characteristics, there's a period there in the public report. That's where they end. So that addition that you're talking about is clearly what they are telling Congress more about UAP. And then the next sentence saying a few of these reports describe UAP behavior, and then a line and a half of redaction. So there's clearly characteristics and commonalities behind UAP that they feel worthy of note. The reasoning for classification is the same thing: military plans, weapons, or operations. They also cite the vulnerabilities or capabilities of systems exemption in the same line. So is this that gray area that I was just talking about? Yeah, maybe. But it's just frustrating that they won't give us some indicator on what they are seeing on something that's unidentified.
Yeah, and what could be, okay, so what is beyond flight characteristics, right? What is the or there? Well, let me help you out. UAP movement patterns or flight characteristics and or disappearing, right? Or demolecularizing, or, phasing out. What continues on with patterns and flight characteristics?
I mean, the only thing that I can really think of would be inside flight characteristics, when you're talking about either certain speeds, certain shapes, whatever that may be. Those are all characteristics of the flight. So what are they adding there? I mean, it's fun to speculate, but I personally just have no idea. Because in addition to flight characteristics, they're also talking about movement patterns.
Right.
So
and disappearing, right?
That's the thing. If they're talking about cloaking technology or stealth technology, sure. I mean, all those types of attributes could be in there. It's just that's another interesting note, that this isn't the only section that has these bizarre additions in the classified version that are redacted. But you see these amended statements, so to speak. There's an appendage at the back of the sentence that wasn't there in the public report that just kind of doesn't make sense. So it may be a situation where if we ever get to read it, we go, oh, that was it. Well, that was easy. And it's not as cool as we think. Or there's some pretty fascinating material in here.
Now, the next line, it's probably, man, I've said this way too many times this week, but it's probably the most interesting line in the entire report, which is some UAP to remain stationary in winds aloft, move against the winds, maneuver abruptly, or move at considerable speed without discernible means of propulsion. That's a holy crap moment. That should have been redacted, right? I mean,
and what's odd about it is that was in the public report.
And the small number of cases, military. Okay, so this is where it goes for me, science fiction, which I love, because they start bringing up processed radio frequency, RF energy associated with UAP sightings. And I keep going back to this, John. They know something about RF signatures and UAP. And I'm talking about encounters with ET or something off planet. They have identifiers in the RF spectrum.
I would think so. And what's interesting is they still can't identify what these craft are. So out of the 144 cases that they have essentially analyzed for this report, we know even from the public version, 143 remained unidentified. They were only able to identify one, and that was a balloon. So whatever these RF signatures are, the energy associated with UAP sightings that they're referenced, even with that and the detection of it, they still can't peg it to a certain piece of technology, a certain country, our own, meaning American. They can't do it, apparently. So what is it that they're detecting? And that's obviously a very intriguing line that even was echoed in the public report, which is kind of surprising. Like you said, that should be redacted, but wasn't. So what is that indicating? I mean, it's indicating something that they're not afraid to tell us, but what is it when you add in that they're detecting that type of energy, but they can't identify a single one? If they had one case that said, well, we detected this RF energy and we determined it was, coming from whatever transmitter or something to that effect, great, then that opens up the possibility of an explanation for that detection, but there is none. So that remains a very intriguing part of both the public and the classified version. And as you can see on page 6, it goes on where the public report ends with processed radio frequency energy associated with UAP sightings, period. Mm-hmm. The classified version goes in and says as, and then a bunch of redaction. Although there are a bunch of redaction, a bunch of redaction, recordings of radar displays suggest these UAP, and then a couple more lines of redaction.
Now, I want to stop right there because that is another intriguing line right there. Recordings of radar displays suggest these UAP. Now, it's redacted, but I would think that says recordings of the radar display suggest these UAP run circles around our military tech and we can't do dick.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's very much what is likely underneath there. And I immediately thought of, I have no idea if there's a connection, but I immediately thought of the Jeremy Corbell leaks and the literal recordings of some of these displays that were filmed with a cell phone in likely the CIC of a ship or something. I immediately went there and thought, okay, is that the material that they were looking at that culminated into this report that somehow leaked out? Because we know that the stuff that went to Jeremy Corbell was legit. Not unidentified UAP labeling, meaning that the government wouldn't say if they were unidentified or not, but they did admit that that material was utilized by the UAP task force. So is that what they're referring to here? I don't know, just speculation, but recordings of radar displays. Note that they said recordings of radar displays, not radar data. So is that the literal recording of the radar display that we saw in that leak that was acknowledged by the government? I'm not sure, but it's definitely the first thing that I thought of going there.
Now, the next two paragraphs are also heavily redacted, but talk about speed. And one pilot specifically, and it's a quote, by the way, the pilot says he was fighting to keep his aircraft in the airspace. Right? And it continues on talking about airspeed, changing course, changing direction. What are we talking? What do you think is being referenced here if you're fighting to keep your aircraft in the airspace, but the object is not, right?
Right. So right before that quote, they set the scene of the airspace being the winds were greater than, and then it redacted the airspeed. What I'm not really surprised at here is that redaction, simply because if we know the aircraft and we know the speed of the wind, we now know a vulnerability of that aircraft to struggle to keep in that airspace. So that's kind of a way to unpack that part a little bit, that it is a vulnerability. But the next part for me was key. After he was fighting to keep his aircraft in the airspace, it was redacted, and its position was unaffected by the redacted. I and this is a little bit of speculation because there's a lot of redaction there, see that as that the UAP was unaffected by potentially the wind. But why is that redacted? I know you're just broadcasting audio, but for anybody who's following along on page 6, you look at that redaction, it's not big. So you can fit wind in there. And if it is wind, then why would they redact it? Because they've already set the environment as being essentially a high wind environment. So why would they redact that? There's not many words that'll fit in there. So what I take away from this is the UAP has better capability than whatever jet this was. And
now we're assuming, let me jump in.
Sure.
I just interrupted you. We're assuming it's a jet. And is an F-18, let's just go with an F-18, affected by a 100-mile-an-hour wind? I wouldn't think so. So would this maybe a helicopter? Maybe it's not a jet, and a helicopter would be affected by wind speed.
Yeah, they note a helicopter incident, I believe, on the next page.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
But this one, for whatever reason, if it is a helicopter, they redacted it. So for me, those types of things stick out as not being common. I mean, why would you say it's a helicopter in one case, but then redact it was a helicopter in another?
Right.
I'm not sure. My gut said that this was a jet, but it's just that, a gut feeling. I mean, there's just nothing. There's nothing to go on other than the winds are affecting it. And I'm not a F-18 or a naval aviation expert to tell you what winds greater than whatever speed would be problematic. But you don't need to be that kind of an expert to really see here that there was something that was just unaffected by it. So juxtaposing that with the Navy pilot and whatever he was flying showed that it was essentially outperforming. In my opinion, that was my takeaway from that particular incident, that whatever this was outperforming the naval piece of equipment he was flying.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And again, this reads like science fiction because although the rest of 1.4A and down and above is heavily redacted, but a UAP exhibited redacted. According to redacted, UAPTF has additional reports indicating redacted that appear to be redacted. But this last paragraph says it all. The UAP task force holds a small amount of data that appear to show UAP demonstrating acceleration or a degree of signature management, redacted. However, redacted, additional rigorous analysis is necessary by multiple teams or groups of technical experts to determine the nature and validity of these data. We are conducting further analysis to determine if breakthrough technologies were demonstrated.
Yeah, what kind of analysis is what I want to know. I mean, how could they not have figured that out already in the elapsed time that they have had these cases? I don't have an answer for that, but why would they? And that was in the public report. That last part about the further analysis was in the public report. But essentially, how long do you need to figure out if this is breakthrough technology that we just don't have either in the U.S. arsenal or on the planet? I mean, it shouldn't take that long. You have airspeeds, you have capabilities, you have shapes, you have pretty much everything you would need to essentially start to identify it, even broad stroke, with broad strokes. And yet they just don't do that here. And these additional incidents reinforce that if they have all of that data at their disposal, and some of these are likely a few years old incident-wise, and after all this time, they're still analyzing if it's a breakthrough technology or something like that. That's worrisome, because I think if they just plopped all that data on Twitter in like an hour, you've got a lot of people that would likely solve it on whether or not it's breakthrough technology or something mundane and something explainable. So it's a little worrisome when I get to stuff like that they've had this stuff for that long, and they have all this data, and they call what that data is coming from reliable systems, and they're also saying that there are multiple reliable systems collecting this data. And with all of that, they still have no idea, not even on an identification, but some kind of analysis to answer that question about breakthrough technology.
Well, and they stress at the beginning of the report that our sensors and systems are the best in the world, and we can figure out what is in the skies. And this report is about our sensor data not being able to identify these craft. That is what this report is about, right?
I would think so. That's my takeaway. So then the question mark for me, and this is a much bigger discussion, I don't know if you want to have it, but the bigger question then is how much access did the task force have to truly answer whether or not this was our own classified tech, breakthrough technology, or so on. So if they were being withheld information and only given limited data,
right,
then their conclusion is going to be skewed to the wrong. And they're going to be skewing it to the wrong because they don't have the appropriate access to really confirm if anything was classified tech or a drone or anything like that. So even though it's fascinating to read, we also, because we don't know the answer to this, also have to examine how much access did the task force when they created this really have. And in my opinion, they likely did not have carte blanche access to just go into anything and everything they wanted, free reign, look at everything, special access program, top secret and below. I just don't see it. So then the question mark is, are those accurate conclusions? And I'm not sure. I can only go by the data that's in front of me, and it's heavily redacted. So we have to deal with that, but then also kind of speculate a little bit and ask those important questions.
Did the mention of the helicopter incident, which surprised me, by the way, did that surprise you too as well? And the way that it was reported, because you had two WSOs, weapons system operators, officers that were also involved in this report. Because you've got three sources now on this report, not just one, not just the pilot.
Yeah, it was surprising for a couple different reasons. The helicopter pilot reference was new to me. Generally, we do hear about the jets. So the helicopter pilot did not, the helicopter case, I should say, did not ring a bell to me. Add in the two Wizzos that were also witnesses to whatever was being observed. But also the line, which I kind of take that there were 5 objects. There's a redacted word or words in between 5 and objects. But it looks to me that there was a potentially small fleet of UAP that numbered to about 5 that were being witnessed in this case. Now, I could be wrong because clearly we don't see what's in the middle of the 5 and objects. But regardless, I mean, that's kind of what I am seeing here, that this was a encounter with numerous witnesses of at least 5 objects, which I believe is pretty substantial in my opinion. All of that, by the way, for those who don't realize it, was not in the public report. So those types of details you could have said in summary, not the redacted parts, but you likely could have made some summary here. But there's a reason that they're withholding all of that from the public, and that's what intrigues me.
Now, we're going to head to a break, but a quick question in 30 seconds. We know that we're going to see more reports coming out in 2022. Do you expect more of the same, or do you think that they are getting their feet under them and now will approach these reports a little bit differently?
The next one, should it surface, will pave the way to answer that from there on out, because the UAPTF at this point is essentially disbanded, and now we've morphed into what's called the AOI MSG. It may be absolutely more of the same, or they may say, okay, look, UAPTF didn't have the access. You guys now have the access, so let's get us some answers. But I think it's going to be something we can't answer until the next public something comes out, whether it be a declassified partial release of something like this or an actual public report.
Let's take our break right here. This is Fade to Black. I'm your Jimmy Church. John Greenewald of the Black Vault is with us. We're breaking down the UAP Task Force classified version, heavily redacted, that he got released last week. This is Fade to Black. I'm your Jimmy Church. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
Listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
Hey, what up, y'all? It's your girl Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy Jimmy Church on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
This is Jimmy Church. Jason Martell's book, Knowledge Apocalypse 10-Year Anniversary Edition, is now available. Most ancient cultures speak of a time when their gods visited them. They never say their gods came from across the ocean or from the mountains. They always came down from the skies. Was ancient man visited by gods or extraterrestrials? We have not been told the full truth about our human past. There was a time when all the ancient cultures lived amongst beings they considered their gods. The search for truth leads us down the path of learning where the ETs might come from and why they are here. To understand some of these advanced topics and learn the truth about human origins, buy the new book from Jason Martell, Knowledge Apocalypse, now in its 10-year anniversary edition, available on Amazon.com by clicking on the banners over on our site, or simply visit JasonMartell.com. That's JasonMartell.com. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at jimmychurchradio.com.
Are you ready to read about true paranormal events? Unex Media publishes nonfiction books about UFOs, ghosts and haunted places, time anomalies, cryptid creatures, and more. Just like KUNXDB Radio, it's all about unexplained phenomena. Visit www.unxmedia.com to see our list of great book titles by Debbie Ziegelmeyer, Gene Walker, Devin Listrom, Wayne Lawrence, Bill Spicer, and yours truly, Margie Kay. That's unxmedia.com.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today.
This is Billy Carson with ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Forbidden Knowledge TV has just reached its 1-year anniversary. That's right, 1 year. And as a show of appreciation, we are giving all new subscribers a free 30-day trial of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's 30 days to binge watch thousands of movies, documentaries, conferences, workshops, lectures, yoga classes, meditation courses, and so much more. So log on to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv from your computer or mobile device, or get the Forbidden Knowledge TV app on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon, iTunes, or Google Play today, and use coupon code 30daysfree. That's coupon code 30 days free on ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
This is Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Overtime with John Greenewald. Great conversations earlier with Alan B. Smith and Jeff Kingsbury. And now John Greenewald joins us from the Black Vault, and we're going over the UAP Task Force classified version of the report, heavily redacted, that John got released, and he posted everything up over the Black Vault last week. And John, moving on to page 8, two things I want to focus on here, where the opening, which happens on page 7, UAP probably lack a single explanation. And again, this was in the public version of the report. I don't want to get into airborne clutter, but if we go to the top of page 8, there's two things on page 8 I wanted to discuss. One is the top line. We have examples of pilots who stated that they redacted, right? What gives? Why? What could possibly be there that had to be redacted?
Letter section. So I'm not really sure. And even prior to that, it should be noted that there were quite a few different lines, most of which were redacted on airborne clutter that were added in, or excuse me, that were taken out for the public report. But we can clearly see there was much more information under airborne clutter, which translates to birds, balloons,
trash bags.
Yeah, trash bags, so on. So what's there that they couldn't tell us about? And your guess is as good as mine. G is, again, those vulnerabilities. So, is a trash bag going to give us a run for our money? I mean, I don't, exactly. I really don't get it. So those redactions and those excisions from the public report didn't make sense to me.
Now, the one paragraph that is unmolested is right here. No redactions. The United States government or industry developmental programs. Some UAP observations could be attributable to classified USG aerospace programs or systems under development by commercial aerospace firms. We were unable to confirm, I want to repeat this, we were unable to confirm, however, that these systems accounted for any of the UAP reports we collected. Very important paragraph and unredacted.
Right. And this is the source of a lot of, we'll call it controversy, but more so just heated debate and controversy here. Where does this definitively just rule out classified tech? And I get a lot of heat because I pose that possibility for some of these cases and what we've been dealing with and hearing about in the media, namely the 2004 Nimitz encounter. And J.J. Abrams did a documentary for Showtime, which I appeared on. And they specifically asked me about that in relation to the 2004 event. And I still echo the same thing I said there, where it is a possibility we are dealing with classified tech. So some people have thrown at me, my biggest fans, thrown at me, how could you say that on Showtime, yet here's the government saying that they can't peg a single one as classified tech. And I've already brought it up, but I'll just repeat it very quickly, that we don't know the type of access that the UAP task force had. So if we are not convinced that the UAP task force had all the access, how do we know that their conclusions were solid? The other thing that I point out too with those haters of mine is that they will tell you that I am wrong because the government says, hey, look, right here in the report, nothing is classified tech. But in the same breath, they'll tell you when they hear something they don't like, the government lies all the time and they don't know and they don't want to tell us the truth. So you can't say both of those things firing at me at the same time, where if you don't believe the government, then how can you believe this report?
Well, it's cognitive dissonance in play.
Yeah. For me, how I approach it is you have to deal with the evidence in front of you. And this report gives us a piece of that evidence. I just know for a fact it's not everything. It's not the totality of the evidence. So we are left to kind of think, okay, is the government accurate here? Did they have that unfettered access to all of the special access programs, technology and development, so on and so forth? I think it was Christopher Mellon himself, in addition to some other key names in this debate, that said that the task force was having information withheld from them. So if that's true, then we can very safely say that we don't know if their conclusions were solid. But there's enough here, I think, that supports there is an aspect to this phenomena that truly is unidentified, that truly is a potential threat. I know people hate that T word, But it just is. It's showing our vulnerabilities. It's exposing our vulnerabilities, and essentially outperforming some of our best tech that's up there. So that is by definition, potential threat. So there is a lot you can glean from this report, despite the redactions.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Now, specifically, I addressed this issue right at Kevin Day when I said, is it possible, right, that Lockheed, Northrop Grumman, somebody is out there testing some future tech and either unwittingly used it when your battle group was out there, or you guys stumbled on to something that was being tested and that was an accident. And he said in both cases, he said, no, absolutely not. They would never test them. They would let us know that they were doing that. And you're putting pilots in harm's way, and there could be a really, really bad incident that could come out of this. So, no, they would let us know ahead of time.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that assessment?
I don't. But I will say this to counter my own argument here, just to be as fair as I can. I even gave the Pentagon the out to give me that. I wasn't giving them ideas, but rather I posed that question to them,
right?
Saying, would you test, let's say, Air Force technology against the U.S. Navy without their knowledge? They said no. However, I believe history supports that they would. And I cite, even going back to the 1950s, a document that was declassified, and it actually ties to Area 51. And in short, they did spy satellite flybys of our Area 51, snapped pictures, took that data, and gave it to the top CIA analyst, never telling them it was Area 51, but said, we want you to analyze this. What can you tell us? What kind of buildings are there? What kind of development, if any? What kind of craft? What can you deduce? Now, obviously, that's a far cry difference from a real world exercise with military equipment flying in the sky. But regardless, the concept is exactly the same. And just because the government says they wouldn't do something, I believe history strongly supports that doesn't mean a thing. So in the world of military intelligence, military technology, and the classified world, I do not believe, and I like Kevin, I'm not trying to argue with him on this, but not everybody is going to be read in. And you have testimony, I believe it was PJ Hughes, that said that after the incident in 2004, he testified and has put out there that Air Force personnel came in and took his data bricks. So when you have witnesses that say that, why was the Air Force there on a naval ship? Why were they there so quickly? Why did they take the bricks? That doesn't support that it's just automatically Air Force tech at this point, but nobody's asking that question because the NDAs and the security clearances are already in place for naval personnel. They're not supposed to just record something out there and go, wow, this looks cool. Let me tweet about it and then put the data out there. So that's ultimately in place. So why did they feel the need to come in and take that data from the ship? So given all that was true, why are they doing that? And so when you deal with theories like this, you look at that supporting evidence. It's circumstantial because we weren't there. We don't have photos of the Air Force officers coming in and taking it. But regardless, we have to deal with that. We have to give that question, or to ask that question, to give these possible answers to what is going on. And if we challenge the narrative, and it comes out at the end that there's no way it was classified tech, then great. It further reinforces the reality that this was something potentially even paranormal, that this was not classified tech. But we need to ask those questions, and it shouldn't be offensive to anybody. But sadly, I think some people that do hear theories like that, they just short circuit and say, no, John's being a meanie again and come after me with guns blazing. But we shouldn't do that. I think we need to really evaluate these incidents case by case and hone in on every single detail to get some answers.
Do you think that there is a possibility that we have issues with our sensors and radar systems, and they're not as bulletproof as we think, and something more mundane is going on here that is coming back as something fantastical, but it may not be.
I think so. I think that's definitely part of the conversation as well. I think that it's clear from this report by the amount of redactions and are likely legitimate redactions, potentially exposing our vulnerabilities, where UAP were allowed to essentially evade maybe our detection systems or outperform our aircraft or whatever it may be. Those are vulnerabilities that need to be dealt with. So it doesn't matter the root of what these UAP are.
Mm-hmm.
It's exposing a vulnerability to what should be the most powerful military on the planet. So they evaluate that, they look at it and go, okay, how can we fix this? So whether that means it's, some alien force among us or a foreign adversary or even our own technology trying to expose our vulnerabilities behind the scenes, I don't know the answer to that. But regardless, we know now by this classified report being partially released, that is definitely a big part of this conversation. And it's the vulnerabilities and the lack of ability to detect UAP. They have a whole section on that. So there's a lot to this and a lot of different facets that encompass the conversation.
Now, skipping over the other Ben, which has been discussed and theorized over and over again by you and myself included, but jumping to page 12, what is going on here, man? What do you think? Oh, okay, the big block. Let me ask you this. We have discussed endlessly about the possibility of videos and things being presented to the Senate Intelligence Committee, and that there must be stuff like this in the report. We get to this, which is Table 2, UAP detected by, right, blank, unidentified aerial phenomena is the title. In over half of the 144 reports, USG observers, right, redacted, unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP, redacted. And then we have this blocked out section. What do you think was under there?
So obviously pure speculation, but I think at the top, when you're talking about U.S. government UAP reports by, I think I think they're categorizing them, and it's just a guess, but I would imagine that those 4 categories may include pilots, may include sensor systems, may even go into bigger detail than that, maybe specifically naming a system. I was surprised there were only 4, if I am on the right track on that, but I think that again, that's what you're looking at. On the color version, as long as you're looking at the PDF, you can see the table has the blue for the header and then the white for the data. So I think the US UAP observations by, and then it's something blacked out, then there's 4 different columns. And I believe those 4 different columns with the blue first row are going to be those categories. The second white row is going to be the number that will total 144. That's also indicative from the 144 total in a parenthetical at the top.
Right.
The red text table is, and then it's redacted. That is likely the classification of what we are looking at. And why they differentiate the table versus something else, I don't know, because the top and bottom redactions are the classification of the document. They won't even tell you if it's top secret or confidential, which I highly doubt. So my theory there is that there is a code word, a top secret keyword there. So it'll be like top secret / and then a code word.
Yep.
That probably is what's going on there. As proof, I showed the NSA documents that are top secret Umbra. And Umbra deals with communication intelligence with the NSA. And for years, many, many years, Umbra itself was a classified designator. So they wouldn't even tell you what Umbra was. It was top secret and then redacted. So we didn't know that keyword. And one of the MDR cases I did with NSA brought that out many, many moons ago. So I think that that's what's going on there. And then skipping down to the second part of your question, UAP detected by, in my personal, again, best guess, I believe this would likely get into then a breakdown of the systems that are corroborating the witness testimony. Again, I am fully going to admit I could be completely wrong, But I think that's kind of how I would see this, where table 1, you're going to have the reports by, and then a broad stroke categories, pilots, maybe WISOs, maybe sensors, maybe whatever, radar. And then underneath are going to be a breakdown of the actual systems that are being seen, whether it be a Spy 1 radar or again, fill in the blank. But maybe something that's much more sensitive because you can see a lot more redaction there. So just guess, and I always stress that whenever I go there, but that I think is a plausible breakdown of what we're looking at.
What's 3024?
That is, give me 1 second.
Because as you're looking that up, below the table 2, and over half of the 144 reports from the United States government observers, redacted unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP, then redacted. And this, I don't know what was there.
Yeah, I never like to do stuff like that from memory because I'll usually screw it up. But 3024 under 50 U.S. code is information pertaining to intelligence sources and methods and the National Security Act of 1947. So essentially it's sources and methods.
Huh. Okay, let's go to our favorite page, which is 13.
And if before you go there, just really quickly, the sources and methods is that reinforces that's potentially the systems itself.
So this is a table.
So they are withholding how we are detecting UAP because they don't want to reveal the source or the method by using I'm just making up like a Spy 1 radar or something like that.
Right. Which we already know. And see, that's the other puzzling thing. I mean, we know the radar systems that are on the Princeton, and so what of course, those are the systems that are detecting these. I mean, what's the big deal? I'm very curious.
I totally agree with you. Just to play devil's advocate, you can then start deducing once you start hearing the sensors and the names. You can then start determining what list of ships that they're talking about. And then from the list of ships, you can figure out what may be in the area. So a foreign adversary could look at that and with some time and some blood, sweat, and tears, really start to evaluate, okay, it looks like, and I'm again just making up variables here, the Princeton is spying on us because they're on a very short list. They're the only ones in the vicinity. They're detecting our flight over here. So I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit there, but I can understand it where any little tidbit of information that you can use, hey, it's how I do research. You drill into that one word or one character to file another FOIA or to file an MDR or to look for a lead or whatever. Well, foreign intelligence services work the exact same way. Our own intelligence community works the exact same way. When people talk at press podiums and this and that, there are analysts that sit down and look at every single piece of word usage that they used. That's why, not to make it political, but that's why Biden is under so much scrutiny right now for what he said about Putin not staying in power. Why that is such a big deal was that a slip? Was that a slip to show a potential policy change or something more sinister, something on a deep classified level of a regime change or something that, shouldn't have been out? So everything is evaluated. And that's what's fascinating to me, but sometimes very frustrating, is trying to fight for those redactions to be lifted, but in the same respect, understand why the redactions are there in the first place.
Well, I mean, they've closed the door, though, on foreign adversaries here. And
Did they?
I
mean, and again, a devil's advocate. They said they did.
They said they did. And
they said
so
they did.
Is that selectively put out there for the foreign adversaries to read to obfuscate and confuse the situation? Is it really that brilliantly written? Well, possibly so. Possibly
I
so.
have talked a lot about this, and for me, it's a fascinating angle of this conversation because I just want to preface it. I do believe there is a real part of this phenomena that is unexplained. But in the same respect, I believe that this conversation has turned the UAP topic into a tool, a counterintelligence tool.
100%.
That they can now, in one broad stroke, with these types of reports, Number one, hide the small percentage of UAP that are truly unexplainable, truly a mystery, and potentially incredibly fascinating. But also confuse world powers on what we know or what we don't know. So them lying to Congress, some might say, oh, they're going to lie to Congress and mislead Congress. You better darn believe it. We have decades worth of history proving just that. So that's a silly argument against this idea.
Sure.
If they would mislead Congress. And you know, so again, this is a very big, broad conversation in itself. But to quickly summarize it, I do believe the UFO/UAP topic has become a tool, a counterintelligence tool that is being utilized right now. And what's hard for me as a researcher to try and decode all this is, how do you know it's not a charade? How do we know that this is not covering up, let's say, extraterrestrial technology? How do we know it's not covering up the reality that it really is China or it really is Russia? But these types of revelations, when it goes to the public report, saying, no, we thought it might be China and Russia, but we have no idea. Meanwhile, over in China and Russia, they're going, they really don't think it's us?
Yes.
We thought it was pretty obvious, and it's not. Well, wait a minute. Do they? And that's the whole point of counterintelligence, is to confuse your adversary on what you do or do not know, or what you really know or really do not know. And it becomes just this confusing mess of muddy water. And that's playing out as we speak with this topic.
What do you think? I've just got a minute left, John, and going, to my favorite page in the entire report, which is page 13, yes. The common shapes. If you were a betting man, and you're not, but if you were, and you're in and you're in Vegas, what are the odds that we're going to get that common shapes table released?
I am hopeful that I will get some of it, not all.
Do you have
I believe I have put up a case that will allow them to reveal something. And I used that declassified slide as an example, that a UAP case, which was a clear drone, a quadcopter, but it was unidentified. They couldn't label it. They released those photos to me. So I believe that with those facts, that there's something there that they can release. And if it's only diagrams or silhouettes, then even more so, silly stupidity that they can use that redaction. So will I get everything? Probably not. Will I get partially lifted? I'm going to cross my fingers and say, I hope so. I think so.
What's up next? I've got 30 seconds. What are you releasing tomorrow?
Nothing yet. I don't. But I am working on quite a few different things. The biggest thing I'm very hopeful about is winning an appeal for UAP reports, videos, and photos from the U.S. Navy that went to the task force. They originally denied 100% of all of them. I put up an appeal, and I won. So that means that they are in the process of reviewing each and every report. That, to me, is one of my biggest wins when it comes to this topic. So when that's going to happen, I have no idea, but that's one of quite a few different things that's in the pipeline.
Man, that's exciting. John Greenewald, go put on some face cream.
Yes,
get some sleep.
Cucumbers over my eyes.
I'll talk to you tomorrow, my friend.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much.
Great show.
Thank you.
This is Fade to Black. Everybody go to blackvault.com, theblackvault.com, and the classified report story is right there on the front page. What a great show tonight. Oh, man, I had so much fun. I want to thank Alan B. Smith for coming in earlier, and, of course, Jeff Kingsbury. Great show tonight. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldridge. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. And this broadcast owned and copyrighted 2022 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, right here, Don Schmidt, 75th anniversary of Roswell. Until tomorrow night, I want everybody to be safe It's time to fade to black.